Welcome to Gardening with Granny. Today we're going to be harvesting comfrey from my herb garden and perhaps make some salve. Let's see what we can get into. So here's my comfrey patch. Well, actually I have several comfrey patches in my garden, but this is the one we're going to choose to harvest from today. Comfrey is picky, so I'm going to put some gloves on because a lot of times if you wear gloves, you won't get that itchiness. Okay, let's first of all look at a comfrey leaf. You see how it lines off, and the underside has this very hairy, I don't know if you can hear that. This is a protection for the plant. And the signature of plants, when you have this very strong stem in the middle like that, it often helps the structural system. The plant itself is very mucilent, which means it has a lot of juice in it. If I crunch it up like this, you will be able to see how juicy it is. And this tells us also that the plant has healing qualities that can help with the mucous membranes of the body, which line every part of the body, your skin. And your skin is not only your exterior skin, but also the inside skin. So comfrey is very, very beneficial, and we'll talk more about the benefits of it in a little bit. But right now, let's harvest some comfrey. You can see sometimes the leaves are going to get enormous. I have had leaves that were like a foot long. Now right now it's not in bloom, so you're not going to see the little purple bell-like blossoms that come off of the plant. Whoa, pardon me. I guess we will. So if you can zone in on that, you can see the very delicate, beautiful purple. Now you see it's at the very end. So we're lucky enough that we'll be able to get some of the blossom. But they too hold some very beneficial constituents that support health. So I'm going to just continue harvesting and we'll get back in a minute. If you can look closely at the stems, you can see the juice coming out of the stalk. And these are what help it to heal. So you could actually chew a little bit of this. It's hairy, it doesn't feel good in your mouth. But if you had a sting or a bite, you could chew a little bit of this, make a poultice with your saliva and this comfrey, and put it on a wound, and it would immediately start helping that wound to heal. Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of fun stuff with our comfrey. Since you saw the video of me harvesting, I put some in my food dehydrator, and not every bit of it dried, but some of it did. You can see how crunchy it is. And basically, we want to use for our infusion, we're going to use the leaves. Now, if you were going to do the tea, you simply could just pop it into a jar like this. Probably want to have more than what I'm showing you, but I wanted to make sure it was dry before I started it. And you wouldn't really even have to crunch it up a whole lot. Basically, you'd want to fill it to about 1/4 full, and then you pour boiling water over it, and you let it steep for about 5 minutes, and you would strain it off just like you would make tea. You could put honey in it or maple syrup or something to make it sweet, and then drink it as a tea. And yeah, the health benefits of it as a tea, it is extremely beneficial. It can help soothe sore throats. It helps with many different things. Another way you could use it is to pour honey in this uh, um, over the leaves so that the leaves were fully covered with the honey. And then you would put it in some warm water, not boiling, but like 100-degree temperature water, and so that the honey would be a little looser. Then you would stir it around and make sure that all of the honey was saturating the leaf. And you would leave that sit for about a half hour to an hour in that warm water so that the honey would be absorbing the comfrey. Then you could pour it out through a strainer and use that honey as a throat soother. So if you had a sore throat, you could take that honey, you could put it in chamomile tea, you could do a lot of however you wanted to. You could put eucalyptus in the honey to make it like a cough drop. There are a ton of ideas on the internet about using herbs in different ways. Comfrey leaves are relatively safe. There really has been no substantial research documenting that comfrey is harmful in any way. In a few minutes, I want to go to information that was presented by somebody by Doc Jones. Now, Doc Jones is a veterinarian. He works with animals and he uses herbs to help his animals. And he has a plethora on his website of information on how he's been able to help certain animals with comfrey is like one of his top 3 herbs. But he also is a naturopathic doctor and he works with humans. Now, the weird thing about our society is that the medical community has captured the word heal and nobody else can do it. Well, I got news for them. God does it. And we all have life within us, and that is what makes us heal, not the medical community, not their drugs. So, anyways, we're going to go over a couple of things now. Back in 2019, I made this comfrey silver salve with olive oil and coconut, and it's good to this day. Now, you may not feel comfortable using anything that is, what, 23 some years old, but I use this almost on a daily basis, and I'm running out. Now, where do I use this? Well, I often will have a rash or something, or dry skin, or some skin situation that I want softened, and comfrey is a cell proliferator. So, in other words, it helps your body create healthy cells and lots of them. So, this morning, I like this, but it's a very loose cream. Disappears instantly. I mean, It rubs in. It's wonderful for where you have clothing. So you want the skin to be able to absorb that really rather quickly. You can put with it any essential oil that you feel will be of benefit. Well, I also wanted to use the oil for something that would be more astringent. So I took the salve that I showed you and I added some beeswax to it. In a minute, I'll show you how to do that. But you can see it has created now an ointment. Now, this ointment still rubs in, but I can take this in my travel box. I added 4 drops of lemon essential oil to it because lemon also is very beneficial. Lemon has antibacterial qualities, so it will keep this better for periods when I don't have a refrigerator. I haven't kept this in the refrigerator. This has been in my cupboard. But, you know, some people feel more comfortable putting their salves and that in the refrigerator. But I love the fact that just a little bit of beeswax added to this made it so that it's more portable. So how do we add beeswax? Okay, well, first of all, the beeswax that I like to use is by Sky Organics. Now, there's lots of beeswax out there. I'm going to put it on my skin. I want to make sure that it's organic. And the white, you can get yellow, but these little flat white beads seem to dissolve much quicker. So all you need is just a very little bit. So here's a jar that I'm going to put the beeswax in. There we go. So we're just going to see how little bit you need. And then you're going to melt this because it takes much longer for beeswax to melt than if you are going to put your oils in there. I took just a little bit of the salve, but you can do the same thing with like avocado oil. We could do that. I just think that it helps the beeswax melt. Now over here, this is a insert for a chocolate melter. So you can see here, this is a chocolate melter. You can get them online. And I'm simply going to put my little pot, sort of, it's like a double boiler. If you wanted to make a big batch, and this is how I've done it. In fact, I have a video I can attach in the description below of how I made a salve, and it's a basic salve that you can follow the instructions in that video. And I used a glass pitcher and submerged it in a pan of hot water. So I brought the water up to a boil. I put my ingredients in the glass pitcher and everything melted. And then I was able to create the salve from that. So not sure I'll be able to get the same intensity of heat. It looks like it might be working. Okay, so while we're waiting for that to submerge, what I would like to do is show you a little bit of the class that that Dr. Jones presented. Okay, I'm sure that you're not seeing what I'm seeing, so I have to make sure I have the share button here. Information is available through Doc Jones at www.homegrownherbalist.net, and I will include his information in a link in the description below. But one of the things that Comfrey has in it is called pyrrolizidine alkaloids, and they call it PA for short. You can see why. So PAs are found in some Comfrey specimens and not at all in the others. Now, he references David Hoffman, who is another excellent herbalist, and his book is Medical Herbalism. And he mentions 4 studies that were done looking for PAs in dried comfrey, and none of them ever were found in the leaf. And so they suggest using the older leaves, the larger leaves, and using no roots, because these alkaloids are found in the roots, and they can be harmful if your liver is not functioning well. And so here is a sample of one of the studies that Dr. Jones has said is that PAs have a reputation for causing liver disease when taken internally. In one study, 6-week-old rats. Now, I don't know about you, but there is a difference between a rat and a human. And I know that the medical community loves to use rats because they feel that people won't be upset about using rats. But there are some people that have pet rats. Anyway, he said this study, these rats were given 40% of their diet as comfrey. Now, I don't know about you, but comfrey would not be my main meal of the day. It's ridiculous to even contemplate. But, you know, science, follow the science. Science can be flawed. And when you're trying to create a certain outcome, you can push it to the limit. Now, these rats got liver tumors. Now, I have to tell you, the other part of the story is that the rats that they use, lab rats, are pretty much geared to have cancer because they want to do studies on cancer and see if they can prevent it. So rats now are, any rats that a scientist buys are bred to have cancer. So what kind of a study is that? To me, that's flawed, but it is quoted as showing that comfrey is harmful. Now, in another study, pigs were fed comfrey at 40% of their diet. No lesions or ill effects of any kind were noted in the pigs. So are humans more like rats or more like pigs? Now, we do have a very similar digestive system and immune system as pigs. So pigs are more like human than rats. I know a lot of people that are rats, but that's different. So these studies are flawed. And unless you actually examine the studies, you don't know that. You trust them. Well, I got news for you. In the last couple of years, I've learned not to trust science because science can be directed, and I don't like that. There are some honest studies, they're done double blind, but when you have something that you have a theory about something and you keep repeating that theory, that's not science. That's still a theory that you're trying to promote. So I have left the YouTube deep dive that Doc Jones presented that I went through. It's almost 2 hours. Lengthy, I had to take several breaks. And it's a lot of information, and it's good information, and he presents it well. I think that you'd enjoy it. He also offers a free PDF of his 10 plants that he really likes. And I'll include the link to that as well. So I found Doc Jones to be one of the best resources on the internet for understanding about Comfrey. So let me see here. There we go. Get rid of that. And we're back. So let's see our, yeah. Now it's hot, so I'm going to be using a tool here to take this out. But a lot of the beeswax has melted, and by the time we finish up our talk, we should be able to do that experiment with the beeswax. But the way that you can use Comfrey is you can use Comfrey as a tincture. Now, I'm not a drinker. I find vodka difficult to handle. I never liked the the emotional things that are on the market that have such a heavy alcohol base, like Rescue Remedy. I found those hard. I really love that Nature Sunshine has glycerin based emotional healing remedies, and I've talked about those in other videos. But the point is that what other people would do to make an alcohol infusion is that they would have this pretty much half full of the herb and pour vodka over it. And then you would make sure that there are no bubbles. You would stir it and get the bubbles out, and that as much of the herb is saturated with vodka. And then you put that on a shelf and you leave it sit for usually 3 weeks to 6 weeks to create a tincture. Now, I have used a glycerin-based tincture, and glycerin is a vegetable glycerin that you use like 60% glycerin and 40% water, and you create this medium. And after the glycerin, when you add it to the water, it is cloudy, and then after it blends with the water, it becomes clear. And once you have this clear solution, you can now make a glycerit. And a glycerit, you would pour just like the vodka. You would pour the glycerin mixture over the dry herb, and then you could leave it sit, or you can make a warm infusion. So you would bring it up to 110, 120 degrees, and you would leave the jar sitting in this hot water like a double boiler, and you would leave it sit for about an hour, and then you would let it come down to room temperature, and then you could strain it off. And I have a video about making glycerits that are more intense. Now, most of these things you make with a dry herb, but when you make an alcohol tincture, you can actually use the fresh herb. Now, we are talking about the leaves and the flowers and the stems, not the root, because the root has more of a chance of having those PAs in it. And if you are diabetic, or if your liver is compromised with like herpes or any of those things, then you are more susceptible to reacting to those PAs. Now, there are tons of wonderful properties in Comfrey, aside from the fact that it helps the cells to proliferate, healthy cells to proliferate, thereby reducing the abnormal cell population. There are so many wonderful attributes to Comfrey. It's analgesic, wound healing. It is fabulous as far as a healing remedy all on its own. But I like it as a base. So in like this one, I have used this. I can use this salve. This is a new salve, but I've used the other salve, like I said, for many skin conditions. But this salve is more of an astringent because of the lemon in it, and it's very beneficial. Now, I could have done the same thing, excuse me, and added lavender to it or peppermint, eucalyptus. If I wanted something to soothe the lungs, I might add eucalyptus to it. I have an essential oil. Okay. It's called Typhu. It's a menthol oil. I must have put it in something. But anyways, you could put that in and it makes it feel like Vicks Vapor Rub. So instead of using some kind of petrochemical like Vapor Rub, which is a Vaseline is from gasoline. And so you don't want to put that on your skin. If you want to heal the skin, Comfrey's the way to go. So you could use peppermint oil, lemon oil, eucalyptus oil, Typhu, which is, I'll leave a link in the description below, but it's a menthol oil, or you could use hemp and get the value of the CBDs in the hemp oil. Now, there's no THCs in this, but there's a lot of information that leads us to believe that CBD is extremely helpful for the body. It balances what's called the endocannabinoid system. So let's add a little bit of this hemp oil to our beeswax. Sorry. And stir it around. It's almost melted. I'm going to stir it a little bit more and see if I can get it fully emulsified here. Okay, and now I'm going to add some more of my Comfrey salve. Stir it around. Now I want to put it back into the warm water here and see if we can get it fully melted. So it took me, once the beeswax was melted, you can put this in the refrigerator. It was totally liquid and it only took an hour for it to solidify to this point. It was clear when I started, and as it became more solid, it became more cloudy. So you will be able to determine that your salve is done by the look of it. But make sure that you wait until it's totally solid before you start to use it. But it's just lovely. Now, I can use this as a lip balm. You know, winter is coming and the children go out to play and you want to protect their lips from getting cracked and chapped. This is marvelous. You can put flavoring in it if you want to, but there's a slight hint of lemon just from what I did. Now, if I have any extra on my hands, I just rub it in. It's just marvelous. I hope that you've enjoyed some of the knowledge that you've gotten today. I would really like you to look into the nitty-gritty of it with Doc Jones. He is such an expert in the understanding of how things scientifically work, which not my bailiwick. I just love playing with these things and watching how I can really help myself and my family. I have used it on bruises. I've used it. Now, there is a caution that if you have an open wound, you don't want to heal the exterior skin too quickly because it needs to heal from the deepest tissue out. But and small wounds, a little bit of bleeding, no problem. You can do that. Scrapes. How much easier is it on a child to put a little bit of salve on it that's not going to hurt and then put the Band-Aid on? Band-Aid won't stick and the sticky part will stick, but it won't stick to the wound. And that's painful to rip off when your Band-Aid sticks to the wound. So I hope that this class has brought you some good information, that you can find some Comfrey friend. You know, once you have Comfrey, you always have Comfrey. It's a very friendly plant. It wants to come up in other areas. And maybe you can get Comfrey from somebody else. It's easy to dig up. The root goes very far, very deep, and that's how it's so mineral rich, is because of the plant. Now, there's lots of information about how Comfrey can be a fertilizer for your plants, that a lot of people use it as a chop and drop. So it's an extremely useful plant, and it's the #1 plant that everybody who is a gardener of any sort should have in their garden. So again, I hope that this was beneficial, that you find it so that you can use some portion of this in your herbal gardening, whatever experience. So this is Dr. Mary. Thank you for watching and see you next time.